Are you looking for alternatives to traditional project planning? Maybe you use a Gantt chart today or a Kanban board, and maybe you think, enough. I need to do something different. I need to shake my team up and get them thinking differently. I often say that the way we manage projects should coincide with the thing we're trying to do. This puts people in the right mood and the right frame of reference to get a project done properly. Sometimes you want to not just generate a great new idea, but also deliver it in a new way. Or maybe you're really not a project manager at heart and you just want to get the job done, but in a way that makes more sense to you. Let's go through 5 ways you can do things differently today. You can get an example of these 5 methods and all the details behind them in my blog. I'll put a link below so you can access that. So my first much loved approach is storyboarding. Storyboarding is what Disney does. Why? It's a way of telling a story instead of a process. If you want to really enrich the process and give empathy to your team about what your user or your customer or whoever it is experiencing, then make your customer a hero and send them on a journey. In this map, I actually have this journey in a business format where you can actually talk through the process of this journey, the challenge, overcoming, and the celebration after, how life changes for that customer or user. This creates empathy. It creates a sense of purpose to the team. It actually breathes new life into people's thinking, and who doesn't love a hero journey? So storyboarding is very fit for purpose, but it's not a full project plan. So think about which phase you would use it in. Generally, in the ideation phase, you might use this. And then be clear about your hero. You want to actually get facts behind the scenes about your hero to make it real. But in the beginning, just let it be a fantasy. You'll get a lot more great ideas that way. Do you like playing games? Then you're going to like this next idea. Having a game board or a quest board, as it's sometimes known as. This can be used in a couple of ways. If you're trying to show people how the change will make them more successful in the future, this can also be a fun way of communicating the change to others. So make it a game. Roll the dice, move your piece, and then find out what challenge awaits you. Maybe you get a call to action on checkpoint. And with that information, you need to deal with the situation. Maybe your next role is on UX obstacles. This can give people empathy for both sides of the equation, the user and the team building the product. The next one I really like because it helps people step back from the detail minutia and see the big picture, the meta view. This can be called a constellation map, seeing how all the pieces fit together, how all of the stakeholders or key players fit together. How are you working with your suppliers and how is that impacting your customer? How do your overall teams from different parts of your organization all interact together to play a role that the customer sees as one unified way of working, where you can bring all the players into a room and actually work through how they relate to each other, which moving parts create impact on other moving parts. This helps you understand complicated ecosystems, which you can then turn into long-term planning, a storyboard, or the next thing I'm going to talk about, mind mapping. Once you understand all the moving parts, you can also use mind map. And I saw this used at even large companies where we were doing workload task management, or if we had a complex relationship between multiple groups interacting together, it was a way of documenting that clearly. Now, maybe detail task management was handled in a Kanban board or someplace else, but often it was handled directly in the mind map. Because mind maps in some technologies can be shared amongst many. It can also be translated into a Kanban board later, but this helps you see what are all the pieces that need to come together, possibly from the constellation map, possibly just from a brainstorming session. And the last alternative that you can use for a brainstorming session, a design session, or a design thinking session is brown paper. A brown paper session is simply a way to bring different stakeholders together. Why do you need to do that? Because if you're designing a system that involves multiple people from inside the company, they may have a different sense of how it's going to work, who it's going to help, and what the outcomes eventually will be. Getting them on the same page is really important because if you have these different stakeholders with different sort of landscapes in their mind about what's going to happen, you are in for disaster. Getting them on the same page helps them understand the problem you're solving and the solution you're implementing all at the same time. And this is very important to ultimate project success. Brown paper sessions are one of the oldest facilitation tools workshops have been using for years. And then, of course, you can put all of this into a system via AI or other kinds of tools to work out detailed plans later. But this helps you understand the overall landscape. This idea of why are you doing it? Who are you helping? How are you going to do that? And when will it all take place? How will it all fit together? So you make spots for all of this, and then you start grouping them together and seeing where is their convergence, the same pain point by two different groups, or where there's their divergence, different things from different people. And you reconcile that, or you resolve it on this big board. And then you plot out all the pieces. And again, if you're interested in design thinking, I have a whole bunch of content on design thinking where this process often really helps, because if you want to go a level deeper, you can talk about how people think and feel and act and do. And this is really important if you're trying to get a customer's point of view. These alternatives can work together. Let's example. You want to start a brainstorming session and bring stakeholders together so you have a common understanding. You want to take the business view via a brown paper session with your internal stakeholders. But next, you want to really understand how that process really brings home the hero journey of your customer, your new target customer or an existing one. And for that, you might augment your brown paper session with a storyboard. To build on that, you might actually use the game board process as a way of communicating to the rest of the organization how it's going to impact what they're doing and how it's going to improve the customer engagement story. And lastly, to make sure all the pieces are aligning, you might use a mind map or constellation map to make sure all the pieces of the business are still running smoothly and working together seamlessly to ensure this new way of working is embedded everywhere it needs to be. Do you see how that works? And then, to actually run the project, you may go back to your normal way of working within the organization using some kind of an agile Kanban board or using waterfall Gantt charts. All of this can help you build a better picture of what your project's supposed to be doing, not just how you do it. And remember, these processes don't always have to be done through the entire project. You can use this as part of a kickoff or just for the brainstorming session. But be flexible and figure out what's fit for use, because the fact is, you never know when you're going to need one of these tools in your toolbox. I hope you found this information helpful. If you did, give it a like, subscribe, and remember, I've got links below to all the materials and free downloadables of the examples I've shown you today. And if you want to know more about change management or know more about storyboarding, I've got videos on that. And I hope to see you next time on ProjectSkillsMentor.com. Bye-bye, everybody.